The Chicago Bulls continue to play well offensively, but they also continue to struggle defensively. We're going to be talking about the key takeaways from tonight's loss against the Indiana Pacers. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today, the Chicago Bulls lose to the Indiana Pacers 132 to 123. They are now 3-8 on the year at home, and so the Chicago Bulls continue to struggle at home. And I just think the key takeaway in tonight's game was just that the offense was there for the Chicago Bulls, and they played good enough to where they could perhaps get a win, but just defensively, they just cannot get the stops that they needed. This is something that this team has really struggled with throughout the year, and is something that is going to be an issue with this team. No matter how you look at it, whether it's a roster construction or just the effort out there, it just has not happened for the Chicago Bulls. So certainly something that they have got to correct. And so as we go ahead now and push into the box score, we're going to take a look at some of the key takeaways from tonight's game. And so let's go ahead and start with, I think, Zach LaVine. I think Zach LaVine is probably our MVP tonight, even though he finishes with a -8 in the box score. And so I think that Zach LaVine really got us back into the game. I think he really was on a heater in the third quarter. He had 32 points. He had 3 assists, 3 rebounds. He did have a steal tonight. But, I know it's going to look like he forced it at times, but I just think that he was our best source of offense tonight. And so I don't have an issue with the way Zach LaVine played, and I've, again, just loved the way that he's played really throughout this year, the way that he's had a nice pace to him and a nice flow to his game and really helped this team out. And so I think tonight, Zach LaVine is the MVP for us tonight, just the way that he was just knocking down some timely baskets. And he did compete on the defensive end out there individually, I thought, as well. And so next up, I think another player that really stood out tonight, it was Ayo Dosunmu. I think that Ayo is really building up some momentum, and I talked about this in the pregame show that I was just thinking that Ayo is really making a strong case to be in the starting lineups. And so at this point, I mean, he had 15 points, he had 5 assists tonight, he had 2 rebounds, he had 2 steals, 2 blocks. But more importantly, he was 3 of 5 from the three-point line, and that's something that he really struggled with, I think, early on to start, and I think that he's really finding his way. And so that is something to really monitor as the Chicago Bulls move forward, is just really Ayo Dosunmu and how well he is playing now that he is inserted in the starting lineup. And I think defensively, man, he was all over the place. I think that he had a very nice steal. I think either in the third or fourth quarter, it was very nice. That really was helping us there, sparking a run. And so, just like the activity that we are seeing from Ayo Dosunmu right now. So he's looking pretty good. Next up, a player that I think forced it tonight, even though he was a +7. I love Coby White. I love his game. But just tonight, man, I think that he really forced up a lot of stuff. But he finished with 19 points. He had 1 steal. He had 4 rebounds. And he had 9 assists today. So really stuffed the stat sheet coming back from that ankle sprain. So it was good to see him out there tonight. But again, he was +7. He did make some tough shots out there, and some big shots really that kind of helped us in the run. But I just think that Coby White definitely did force some shots up tonight. I think that that's really the key takeaway for me for him tonight. So next up, Josh Giddey. So Josh Giddey struggled tonight. Look, he had 10 points, he had 5 rebounds, he had 6 assists. He did have a steal, but he was -10 in the plus-minus box score, and he just really didn't seem like he had a good flow tonight at all. I mean, he did not make a 3-point shot. In fact, he took 6 of them, and that's just not his game. And so I just think, just a tough game for Josh Giddey. And so next up with the bench. And so I think that the key takeaway off the bench is going to be Zoe. I think that Lonzo played very well off the bench. Defensively, he was all over the place. And look, 17 minutes tonight for him. He had 9 points, so he was knocking down some 3-point shots. You could tell he had the energy. He had the 4 assists. He got 2 rebounds. He was 3 of 4, and he was a plus in the plus-minus box score. And so just super impressed with the way that Lonzo continues to, help this team in all areas, right? Like whether it's a defense, whether it's just getting us into some good offense, knocking down some timely shots. Considering that he was out for such a long time and coming back from this injury, I love the fact that Lonzo continues to build upon that. Hopefully he can get his minutes extended here, but I think a good showing from Lonzo. I think he might have been our best off the bench tonight. Next up, another player that did play well off the bench was Jalen Smith. Tonight, playing against his former team, kind of thought that he might have a good night tonight. He had 10 points. He did have 7 rebounds. He had a block. He had a 0 in the plus-minus box score, and so that's solid all around. But, I think that Jalen Smith, he's just a player that's got to continue to get some minutes. I talked about this before that, just some of the stats show that as you give Jalen Smith some time, he really goes out there and he can be an effective player for you. And so hopefully we see that some more now that he's not necessarily listed on the injury report, from the knee and the ankle. But Jalen Smith, I think, played solid tonight. Next up, Modest Buzelis. And so I knew Modest Buzelis was probably going to try to find a way to get out there. He did. I think that, this player, he's just tough. And so 18 minutes today, he had 8 points. He did have 2 rebounds. He had 3 assists. But more importantly, I was impressed with his defense today. The 2 block shots, those were very impressive to me. And yes, he did miss some assignments, and there were several players out there that did, but I just love the way that Modest continues to really build with this momentum. And I think that clearly with that mask today, I think that probably maybe played a factor into his game tonight. I think that one of the things that was talked about is just, dealing with the mask and dealing with the whole peripheral vision and stuff like that. And he did hit his first shot, but you could tell that that's probably something that maybe affected Modest tonight. But good to see him out there. Hopefully he can continue to build off that. Maybe he loses the mask in this next game on Sunday. So I think that was a solid performance from him. Next up, DT. So Dalen Terry tonight, 3 points. He had 2 rebounds. He had an assist. He was -8 in the plus-minus box score. Didn't really get a chance to be an impact there. But, again, you still love his defense out there. Obviously, it wasn't the best game tonight for him. And then also, too, with Julian Phillips, I think that he had a tough one tonight. 2 points. He had a rebound. He had a steal. He was -10 in the plus-minus box score. So, 2 of our better defenders off the bench. I think just a little bit of a tough night. And just in general, the Chicago Bulls just could not get stops when they needed it. It seemed like every time that they were on a run, it seemed like that the Pacers were able to really answer that tonight. And so you got to give some credit to Halliburton. I think that he knocked down some tough shots out there. Obi Toppin played big. And I just think that the Pacers in general did a great job as far as taking advantage of the size. And so speaking of size, that leads me to the last point on the box score, and that's Vooch. And so Vooch tonight, only 13 points. He had 9 rebounds, 2 assists. He was -9 in the plus-minus box score. And I just think that for him, you didn't see as many paint entries for him. I think that he probably got affected by the size of the Pacers tonight. And I think that that's something that the Chicago Bulls just have to make a more of an effort in, and just getting Vooch down there. I think that once we get Vooch started there in the paint, I think that kind of opens us up for the entire game, really. And so I think that is one of the things that the Chicago Bulls just didn't get done tonight. We just didn't get Vooch maybe as involved as we have in the past. And so next up, I want to go ahead and jump into the team box scores and some of the key takeaways tonight. And so let me go ahead and start really with what happened in the rebounding battle. So 46-38, the Pacers take care of that and winning the rebounding totals. Next up, turnovers not so bad for this team tonight. Look, 13-12, and they turned the basketball over. I felt like the Chicago Bulls just could not take advantage of those turnovers tonight, so unfortunate for that. And so next up, when it came down to the fast breaks, the Bulls did a great job as far as getting out in the open floor, 29-16 in that department. So we do a good job as far as getting out and running. So that was good. And then next, when we look at the assists, so the assists, once again, 33 assists. That is not bad. That is pretty good for the Chicago Bulls. So we'll definitely take that. As far as the steals tonight, the Pacers lead in that department. Much more activity on their their end defensively tonight, 9-8. And then I think that this was probably the telling stat of the night is just the field goal percentage, because when you look at the Chicago Bulls, 47.4% tonight and 42% from three, that is decent numbers. And I think on most nights you should be able to probably win that game. But I talked about just defensively the struggles that the Bulls had all night tonight. And then with the Pacers, you look at their field goal percentage. Look, they had it flowing from three. This is a team that played extremely well last year on the offensive end. One of the things that they did well was shoot the three ball. They found it tonight, 62.1% from three. They also shot 56.5% from the field. And so just the Pacers, they were feeling it tonight. And so, I think that that's the difference. Defensively, I just don't think, we really applied enough pressure to the Pacers. They just didn't feel us there on the defensive end. And so, anyway, let me know what your key takeaways are from tonight's loss against the Pacers. I think that this was certainly a game that the Chicago Bulls had. A tough one tonight. Not sure, where we could have went, as far as the bench or anything like that, but we just could not get stops. And so, anyhow, I want to thank everybody out there for liking, subscribing, and sharing the content. It means a lot to us here at Bulls Digest. We try to reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers by the end of the NBA season out there. Want to let you know about 69.3% that watch or not subscribe. So make sure that you go ahead and mash on that subscribe button as we try to reach that goal. And look, even though we take a tough loss tonight and we couldn't get 3 games in a row, it's all right. Hopefully the Chicago Bulls can really learn from this. And at some point in time, we have got to figure out a way to come with just better defense. I know that the roster is not there as far as, being a good defensive team, but it's just so much of this stuff that can be cleaned up just with effort and just not blowing assignments. So that is something that the Bulls have got to get better at. And so with that being said, look, I know it's hard to say it, but I'm still saying it anyway. We're going to be all right. We're somehow going to figure it out. Keeping that optimism as a Bulls fan. I'm still saying go Bulls, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, peace.